to Sally and Tom, who are going to take us through some introductions. And if you can all introduce yourselves, I think it's just probably best if that's the best way to sort of introduce yourselves to the various people we've got on around the world. And once you've finished, we'll pick up the questions. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you ever so much, Ursula. My name's Sally Sudworth, and I'm a fellow of the Institute of Asset Management and a former co-chair for the Climate Emergency Group that was set up for the Institute of Asset Management. And this paper was born out of the interest that that community had on nature-based solutions. So about a year ago, we were recognising that as well as the climate emergency, we have a nature emergency. And we talked about how we have access to all sorts of fantastic examples spread across our asset management community that would be worthwhile sharing to inspire and motivate others to think differently, to reinforce what they might already be doing, and to give people an opportunity to share that knowledge. So it was about a year ago that we put this together, and thanks to the Institute of Asset Management for managing all of the publication and checking all of the links so that all of the case studies that are represented in the paper are there for you to dive into the detail. And I'm delighted that we've got some panelists here today who are going to tell you a bit more about some of those case studies. Just briefly, the global wildlife dropped 69% since 1970, which is just extraordinary. And if we think of opportunities at the outset of when we're managing or developing a maintenance regime or implementing new assets, we can introduce nature-based solutions elements, often for little or no extra cost. That's if we start at the outset in terms of our planning. So it's definitely worthwhile. And today I was interested to read that DEFRA in England have just announced a £25 million programme of investment in natural flood management. And there are 40 projects as part of that. So that'll be interesting to see how those develop and to see what we might learn from that. So that's it from me. I'm going to hand over to Tom now to take you through the plan for the session. Thanks.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Sally. And thanks, Ursula, for introducing. For context, my name is Tom Beresford-West, a member of the Institute of Asset Management and a ongoing member of the IAM's Climate Emergency Group. Sally gave a bit of an introduction of kind of what we have a look at, but we kind of we share ideas and like to think of making as useful tools and papers that we look at, whether it's regarding anything to do with asset management and sustainability in general. So it's been great to put this paper together, and it's very exciting to kind of have a more of a discussion on everything and kind of get a bit of an idea for some of our panelists to kind of show some of the stuff that we've put into the paper, which is really important, and it kind of brings me to my kind of intro to bits of, you know, what are the kind of next steps that we're kind of thinking of, or what's any sort of development. So really this webinar that we're having today is our step one of the next development. We wanted to make sure that we expanded the support and guidance from the white paper to beyond just a paper. I think a white paper is a good way to begin conversations, to start having a think about things, but then it's the kind of more practical potentials of how to develop things. So we wanted to make this topic, and we appreciate it's kind of new space within our asset management community, but it's the potential asset management application and how it can be made as useful as possible, helping people really understand the how to do it, where to bring it in, where to raise the conversations, and then tying in to that classic kind of asset management piece is what value does it have. So I just wanted to kind of be able for the panelists to say a kind of hello before we kind of go through some of the case studies too. So I'll hand over to panelists. Michelle, would you like to say hello?
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Many thanks for the invitation to meet with you today. My name is Michelle Molnar. I'm the Technical Director of the Natural Assets Initiative. We're a small Canadian not-for-profit organization that helps local governments to understand really how to answer all your standard asset management questions for natural assets. Maybe I'll leave it there. I'll dive into one of our case studies.
Thanks, Michelle. Marika?
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Sally, as well, for having me here. Hello, everyone. I'm Marieke Nieuwel. I'm a global lead for nature-based solutions at Mott MacDonald. And I'll talk about some of the work that we've done in a moment. At the moment, I've done nature-based solutions projects across the world, but at the moment, mainly focused on the UK water sector.
Great, and Marcus?
Hello, thank you for having me also. My name's Mark Eubands. I'm a geomorphologist with Atkins Realis, and I've been focused technically on watery nature-based solutions for the last 15 years or so. So the sorts of things that I've been doing are restoration of rivers, catchment management schemes, natural flood management.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, great. I'm conscious to be able to make sure that everyone can see screen and some of the content that we're going to go through. So we've got Marika to start us off.
Thank you. So I'm very happy here to present about our interactive nature-based solutions map. And you can see it on the screen, but you can also find it on the Mott MacDonald website. And you can use this map to explore opportunities for nature-based solutions by clicking on the various approaches that are in there. So for example, if you click on wetlands, it shows a brief description of what they are and the co-benefits that they can deliver. And they can help you, for example, to improve flood resilience and water quality, but also to reduce soil erosion and improve soil health, then sequester carbon or provide opportunities for education and community engagement. And then again, also provide opportunities for improvement of habitats or biodiversity, and finally on human well-being. And within this, you can also find links to case studies of the work that we have done around the world. And this format is repeated for a variety of nature-based solutions approaches. So please have a look and you can sort of play around. So for example, if you look under natural flood management, on the next slide, you can find a case study about our work on the Leeds flood alleviation scheme. And this includes natural flood management measures across the River Aire catchment area. I think, Tom, if you click a few more times, maybe, then you'll see a screenshot. Yes, this is the one. Thank you. So these measures are there to reduce flood risks in the city of Leeds, but also deliver wider benefits such as carbon sequestration, biodiversity improvements, and societal gains. And then if you click on the river restoration, you can find a case study on our ecological enhancement of the lower Lam Tuen River in Hong Kong. If you click again, Tom, you will see a nicer picture. Yeah, so this has seen concrete channels replaced with natural riverbeds and delivering aquatic microhabitats, including pools and refuels, vegetation and resting grounds for birds, while still providing the water resources and hydrological management that the region needs, including drinking water for the people of Hong Kong. So then you can also explore our 6-step decision framework for nature-based solutions. And that's a systematic and integrated approach that takes you through all the stages of the project cycle so that you can easily compare it with traditional or hard or grey solutions, however you want to call them. And it aims to consider nature from the very start of the project cycle, and you can plan for and maximize co-benefits, and hopefully get more confidence around performance, cost and maintenance. So starting with establishing a vision, Tom, if you can click one more time, then here we look at, apart from the main desired outcomes of the project, so for example if we talk about flood mitigation, whether multiple outcomes can be achieved by nature-based solutions. So for example, these can be regulatory requirements or organizational key performance indicators. So it could be net zero or biodiversity net gain or social outcomes. And systems thinking is required here, as well as stakeholder engagement to get buy-in from other stakeholders and form partnerships. Then the next step is identify options for nature-based solutions. And the third step is then appraising these options, including using tools to quantify a range of benefits and agree on a preferred option. And monetizing co-benefits can help really to drive change and secure funding. Then step 4, finalize design and prepare for construction. Important to realize that these benefits of nature-based solutions would often be accrued to various stakeholder groups, and therefore a blended finance approach may be suitable. And this is, you shouldn't start thinking about this in step 4, but this is where it comes up again. And then step 5, construction. As you're working with nature, you need to have an even more adaptable and flexible approach. And then the final step, to maintain, monitor, evaluate and learn. So as it's still not quite comparable with traditional solutions in terms of evidence and understanding, it's really key to collect evidence about performance over time, costs, maintenance, and really learn for future projects. So I'll leave it here for now, but I'm happy to answer any questions later.
Thank you very much, Marika. Lovely. Over to yourself, I think, Marcus.
Hello. Hi. I'm going to talk very briefly about National Highways Natural Flood Management Pilot, which was a program that ran for four years. And could you just go on to the next slide, please? What the program aimed to do was to determine and test an approach for managing flood risk at locations on the strategic flow, the road network, that's motorways and trunk roads that suffered from flooding at present. And it took a two-stage approach, really. One was a national assessment undertaken using data on flood hotspots that National Highways held, and also complementary data sets. And the purpose of that was to home in on those locations where natural flood management may be able to contribute to flood risk on the network. And then the second step was to test the application of the select set of measures on 3 pilot catchments up in the northwest of England. And so on the left-hand side is a graphic of the types of measures that were made available to landowners to contribute to the management of flood risk on the network. We go on to the next slide, please. So I just thought I'd focus on a couple of key successes of the pilot. I think we did implement over 60 measures in 3 catchments on land upslope of flood risk hotspots on the strategic road network. So that was so we managed to target natural flood management measures where they were most needed. But I think also, and possibly more important, was the framework that the pilot set up for the implementation of those measures. So how could National Highways, as a strategic organization, get to talk to and work with landholders within specific catchments at specific locations and work with them to actually implement measures. So the pilot set up a very simple but effective delivery framework in which National Highways set the high level objectives that landowners took on the responsibility of implementing and for a short period maintaining NBS, natural flood management measures, and then crucially sitting in between that national organisation and local implementers were the Rivers Trust, who acted as a facilitator between the two parties. And I think it was the trust that those Rivers Trusts had, or sorry, it was the trust that landowners had with those Rivers Trusts that really bonded the landowners and the National Highways team, and saw that things were done. Very briefly on the right hand side, just touch on a very simple delivery process that was used to actually get the measures onto the ground. Landowners liked it because it was straightforward. It wasn't too difficult to implement. It didn't carry undue risk for them, and that gave them the confidence to give it a go and get the NFM measures in. So I think I will leave it there. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, thank you, Marcus. Love the bit of different parties kind of coming together, helping gel different sides of it. I think unfortunately we won't be able to run through this one with one of our presenters, but coming to yourself, Michelle.
Okay, thank you. So as I mentioned, the Natural Assets Initiative supports local governments in identifying, valuing, and accounting for natural assets in their financial planning and asset management programs. And today I'm really going to zoom in on a project that we completed at a watershed scale. So we started with projects that were really scoped to a municipal scale, but increasingly we've sought to apply our approach at a watershed scale, really to reflect the appropriate ecological scale for those water-based services. Now, we do recognize that natural asset management at small scales, let alone watershed scales, is often a new way of doing business for local governments and many others. Working across boundaries and jurisdictions is challenging, complicated by factors including entrenched practices, regulatory barriers, policies, relationships. So we are really learning a lot with these projects, and certainly are seeking to share our learnings and engage with others. So next slide. The Grindstone Creek watershed in Ontario, Canada, spans across 2 cities, the cities of Burlington and Hamilton. It includes a regional municipality. The entire area, the full blue area there, falls within the jurisdiction of Conservation Halton, which is a conservation authority, and the watershed is also part of Ontario's Green Belt. So the partners were really seeking to address flood risk through the better understanding, management, and protection of nature. So we partnered with the city of Burlington, the city of Hamilton, Conservation Halton, and the Royal Botanical Gardens to complete this project. It was a 3-year project. It produced data, modeling, and strategies to incorporate natural assets into long-term management collaboratively with all project partners. Next slide. So a few of the results from this project included, first of all, an interactive web-based inventory with information on the location, the size, and extent of natural assets within the project area. That also included information on the condition and the risks that natural assets faced or perhaps were helping to address. It included modeling to assess the role of natural assets in flood reduction, so really getting down into peak flow attenuation and infiltration. We also completed evaluation on those co-benefits of importance to the community. So in this case, we looked at recreation and tourism, soil retention and erosion control, climate mitigation, habitat and biodiversity conservation, clean air, health, indigenous values. We completed scenario analysis to ask how your natural assets are going to respond to changes in demand, whether that's climate change, intense development, or restoration. And then we provided a recommended set of next steps to advance comprehensive natural asset management efforts. So this report really provides a case study to address the impacts of climate change on reduced municipal budgets and how natural assets can help to address that. And it provides a framework for watershed management in Ontario and beyond. The full report is available on our website that goes into details on each step of the process. And maybe I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Michelle. Great, thank you. That was really great to go through those and get a bit of insight to some of the case studies that we included in the paper. Sally, I'll hand back to you for maybe a round of questions.
Thank you. Thanks, Tom. So yes, this webinar is to whet people's appetite, really. So please do put your questions into the Q&A section on the platform, or put them into the chat as Ursula has invited you to do. But whilst you're thinking, perhaps I can ask our panel members what advice you'd give to someone who's considering nature-based solutions, just sort of embarking on taking those into account in the work that they do. Have you any thoughts on that? Michelle, any thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd start by looking at what services that nature provides are important in your community and who is benefiting from them. I think that'll start to give you the information you need to scope out a project.
Yes. Yes, yeah. So asking that question, what's in it for them, for the party that you're trying to influence and to get them on board? Yes, yeah, that makes sense. Same question to you, Marika.
Yeah, I can think of a number of things, but yeah, I think it's very important that you bring in, or that you think about it, consider nature-based solutions as early as possible so that you can really maximize these benefits. It's really difficult if you are further along the road and try to bring it in, especially with, you know, when red line boundaries have been set, so, things like that. Also, I think this landscape scale or watershed scale, as Michelle referred to, but which is maybe catchment scale, but this larger scale and a bit more of a systems approach, and that you really take a step back and think about what else can we achieve by implementing nature-based solutions, and who else might benefit from it. And maybe the last thing is talk to other experts. So as we talked about, these benefits are quite wide-ranging. So make sure that you talk about the ecologists and the landscape architects, but also economists and climate and social experts.
Yeah, so bringing together a number of perspectives, not just focusing on just one element as we might otherwise do. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Marika. And Sven, welcome. I see that you've joined us. So I'll just pose this question to Marcus. You've obviously had technical difficulty. So for people on the call, Sven's another of our panelists. And maybe, Tom, we can go back to the couple of slides that Sven had. So we can just talk through that case study ever so briefly. But Marcus, the question to you, what advice would you give to people who are just embarking on this different way of tackling the challenges that they're facing?
Well, I think it was interesting talking or having the opportunity to talk to asset managers, because I think that we definitely within the UK have a tendency still to treat nature-based solutions as in the same way that we would treat capital schemes. So we have this expectation that that you can have a short, intensive period when you implement something, and then that's it. And that's really not the case for successful nature-based solutions. I think that they need to be seen as an operational activity. Changing land use, for instance, isn't done overnight, and managing soil health, is a long-term, ongoing activity. And yeah, I mean, the other one is simply to have faith and go for it. I've had a number of clients who have told me either to go big or go home, and I think there's a certain truth there. There is a lot of uncertainty still, and we need to be conscious of that, but until we upscale the implementation of nature-based solutions so that they are really catchment wide or landscape wide, we're not going to see the obvious benefits. So I feel like we're at the early stages here, and we've just got to have faith and keep on at it, and it will come good.
Yes, yeah. I think it was the same approach with the climate emergency and net zero. About 10 years ago, we knew we needed to do something, but we weren't quite sure what. But a number of clients just embarked on that journey and were committed to learning as they went. And then we captured and improved and matured our approach. And redefine net zero along the way as well. But I think just to have that faith, like you say, and start somewhere, that would be that's a good thing. Tom, am I going to? Yeah.
I'll get my screen back up so we can go. Sorry, apologies, and we didn't see coming up, but we'll get this up so we can show this. Pause from questions, then we come back. But thank you, Sven, for joining.
Yeah, and I must apologize for this unacceptable delay. Sorry about this. Maybe we can just jump right into my presentation here.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. So the topic today was nature-based solutions, basically in the built environment. And the story that I'm sharing here is from Thessaloniki. And Thessaloniki has the so-called Hell Expo. It's a large conference center, which you can see on this picture. This is how it looks like right now. It's basically looks like an industrial area, like with like huge storage areas that are actually the conference centers, like the green building in the back and the long red building. They're all like conference centers. And Thessaloniki has has facilitated an architectural competition to redesign this entire area, and ideally in the most sustainable way possible. And so when we go to the next slide, we can see like the winning concept of this redesign of this conference park. You can see like in front, just at the bottom, you can still see like the arc and this half circle, which was like on the previous picture, like also in the front. And this is the winning design by Sauerbruch Hatten, Elena Stavropoulou Architects, and Gustafsson Porter and Bowman, all renowned architectural and landscape architectural office. I was contributing from AFRI Management Consulting, and I have been designing the sustainability concept for most of this concept that won the competition here. So it was really made me really happy. And what you can see here is obviously a lot of green spaces. So there's a lot of unsealing going place, which is good on one hand, because now we have like more green areas, which are a nature-based solution by itself in many ways, but also a new challenge. And that is, how are we going to water these? Because Thessaloniki gets ridiculously hot in summer, and they have lots of you basically don't get enough precipitation in summer to water all those plants. So we had to figure out a solution to basically at least lower this discrepancy between these two values. So which means that we needed some form of rainwater treatment and storage. And for starters, you can see like these huge collectors on the roofs of the new conference buildings, which will be plastered with solar panels at some point. And they are also used to collect huge amounts of water, the same as all the sealed areas. They are designed in a way that they are all directing the flow of water into a storage system. And the clue in the storage system here is that we didn't use, a mechanical or an engineering solution like a reservoir or like a cistern. What we would be doing is we wanted to partner up with a Dutch startup called Field Factors, because they have built something which is called a blue well. And this blue well can be used to both pump water under the soil, under the earth, and also extract it again if required. And that would mean that the surplus water we would be collecting throughout the winter months, we would be able to store within the groundwater layer of the soil. And then we can retrieve what we have stored during the summer month. This won't be enough to water all the plants during summer, but it will lower the water stress and the water requirements in summer considerably, because we will have like a surplus that we have been putting underneath the soil. So yeah, that's the solution that we have here, the NVS.
Amazing, thank you, Sven. Appreciate jumping onto that. I think so. We can jump back to some questions for you.
Sure.
Tom, I've got quite a lot of questions in from people, and people want to ask questions themselves. Would it be appropriate to do that now? I don't want to change the flow of what everyone's doing, but I'm just conscious that there's quite a few questions from the audience. So.
Yeah, please. We're happy to be open. That's the point of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to invite Zachary Christian to come up to ask his question. If you can do that, yeah, I've unmuted you, so you should be able to do that now, Zachary.
Excellent, and testing, folks can hear me well.
Yeah, just about. You might need to speak up just a little bit louder.
All right, I will put my face to my computer. Is that better? Thank you.
Much better.
So a question on the monetization piece. So I've done my own journey from research to municipality work, and in the asset management world specifically, and cracking the nut of actually incorporating environmental benefits in the decision-making frameworks of organizations has been a tough one. And it's almost like a more specific version of Sally's question. I'd just be curious if folks have been able, in your work, to incorporate the monetary value of asset management, natural assets. Where are the best opportunities, the lowest hanging fruit? And specifically, Michelle, I know from your work in the Salish Sea, and by the way, it's great seeing you and hearing from you again. Others may have done work in this area. I know you've done work in deriving the monetary value of some items. So perhaps we could start with you. But again, curious, going from monetary values and incorporating it into, is this an annual budgeting process that goes into business building propositions? Is this capital planning? Is this even measuring of risk? Like where is that entry point for organizations just looking into this? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I'm happy to get started, but I'm sure the other panelists have a lot of good ideas. We often start by asking what is the objective of the valuation to ensure that the way we structure it is really suited for the questions that our project partners want to answer. So in the case of Grindstone, they really wanted to understand the contribution that natural assets make to flood reduction as the kind of focal service. So we complete modeling. We used EPA SWIM. It was a model that the community was already using. And we build in natural assets so that you understand the capacity of your wetlands, your forests, your grasslands to manage peak flow and infiltration. So once we understand that, we're often able to say, okay, what is this alternate scenario? If we lost these natural assets, how much would it cost you in engineered infrastructure to match that capacity level? And we cost that piece out. Now, we also look at a range of co-benefits, because I think really in making the business case, it's important to look at those co-benefits. The modeling is an intense effort, so we often move to benefit transfer, so looking at studies that have been completed in other locations and looking at the variables that we can adjust in those studies to really match the location of our project as much as possible. Now, obviously, these don't give you a price tag for any of these services, but what we can say is if you wanted to manage these natural assets to provide this range of services, here is what your annual cost would be in monitoring, in maintenance of that natural asset, and those can become items in a local government's annual budget. Did that help?
Yes, I can unmute myself. Yes, that was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
I think if we can just move on maybe to another question. I realise the panelists could probably answer any of the questions, and so I don't know how you want to manage that between you, but I think it'd be good to get some of the other questions we've got. David Lyons has asked a question. David, I'm going to take you off mute if you want to ask it yourself, but if not, I can ask it on your behalf. It looks like you're self-muted, so I can't unmute you, so I'll ask it on your behalf. How do you develop whole life asset management plans for assets that aren't on your land and you may struggle to access? I think this is a great question.
shall I give that a go, because that was a big question for us. Yeah, so the natural flood management schemes that were implemented as part of the National Highways pilot were all on third-party land, and that was one of the huge challenges. We asked landowners if to implement the measures and then maintain them for a 2-year period. And I appreciate that 2 years is quite short, but this was a pilot, and we just wanted to test or make ourselves think about how we might do that. So our specifications that we for the measures that we passed over to the landholders had maintenance objectives on them to get a high level, and we also made sure that our offering to the landowners included an allowance for maintenance activities. We didn't actually pay that up front, but we specified and we paid the farmers for a maintenance period. So I think that's we gave it a go, and we gave it some thought. I think a similar approach could be implemented over a longer period of time, but I fully appreciate that it's a big nut to crack, and at the end of the day, there is no point in putting these measures in if someone isn't going to look after them long term.
Thanks, Marcus.
The next question I've got, Craig Walker's asked a couple of questions, but I'll ask his first question. Craig, I'll try and unmute you if you want to come off. Yeah, it's not letting me unmute you. So I'll ask you a question anyway. So how did you each overcome the problem of different stakeholders having different perspectives of the problem in each project, especially where they had different vested interests and so sought out different solutions? And I suggest, whilst it's been asked of you all, I suggested maybe one of you, and then we can maybe move on to one of the other questions. We've got a few other questions from our attendees. So.
Well, Sven, would you be okay to have a go? I feel like with the kind of concept and designs, there's going to be multiple parties involved. So.
Yeah, right. So if I understand the question correctly, it's like how to get the stakeholders on board, right? Yeah, okay. I can mostly just refer to the Thessaloniki context. In this case, the very first and the best choice is always to go through the question of money, like how much money do we save by implementing a nature-based solutions versus a technical solution, which in our case was, I think, around more than $1 million, because we were saving a lot of money that we would have otherwise have to account for or plan for underground storage devices for the water. So obviously thinking in terms of CAPEX expenses and then in OPEX expenses, and then trying to figure out which parties are mostly involved in which type of context. I think this is like the first, the very best option to get stakeholders on board. And if you can't nail it down to numbers, you can still think about it in the context of opportunities, both like in terms of like recreational opportunities and cultural ones, but also maybe in potential business opportunities. So like, okay, we are creating a new area here, like a reserve, or this mangrove forest is now not only our flood protection, but a place where you can do business, for instance, ecotourism. This is like the like looking into the dual use aspects of some nature-based solutions. This won't be able to be done in every case, because obviously nature-based solutions are also very, very location specific, which is like one of the key aspects when you're also dealing with biodiversity conservation in general. When compared to the climate dialogue, you always have to look at what is happening at your own location and your site, and what is possible and what's not. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
We had a question from Mark de Klerk, and he asked, in your case studies, please share your experience with conflicting interests and regulatory permitting / requirements. So Mark's in the States, so he's probably thinking about some of the various different requirements that are potentially placed on people. So it'd be good to get somebody's view on that, perhaps. I
can just very quickly. I can mention something that I found quite interesting, which was that different landowners, different stakeholders have business processes that move at different paces. And so some people are prepared to move very quickly, and others, normally larger organizations, have a longer process to work through before they can actually make a call. So within the pilots, within the National Highways pilot setup, we had some very small landholders who could make a decision instantaneously, and then we had gravel extraction companies that would need months, years to come up with a call. And so I think trying to tie all that together is actually a real art, and and I think that you have to build that into your thinking process about your implementation. What is a reasonable time for each stakeholder to actually get to the point where they can make a call and implement something?
Maybe I'll just jump in quickly to speak to, at a high level, to an example of a project that we're just wrapping up. This is a project on the west coast of BC, where we were really looking at how to complete natural asset management with a focus on an aquifer that the community really wants to protect. The challenge is that when a drop of water runs from the top of the Mount Elphinstone, where it originates, to the sea, it runs through 12 different provincial departments, agencies, each with their own mandate. So we're really starting to think about how do we manage that with such a range of jurisdictions and interests and mandates. And we've started working with the province of BC to help them understand where are the barriers to managing this and what are the opportunities. I don't have a magic answer right now, but we have started to look into how do we start to coordinate amongst various levels of government and parties interested in the protection of some of those natural assets.
Thank you. I think it'd be good to just maybe cover a few other questions, if that's okay. So David Harmon has asked a question, and it's related to how can the balance between nature-based solutions and the construction of grey infrastructure assets be demonstrated as correct? This is a classic. This is a really interesting question.
I don't think there's an answer to that. Correct, not correct. I definitely do think that there's usually the hybrid solutions are more likely to be successful than just nature-based. I mean, depends, of course, really which ones you're talking about. But for example, so I work a lot with water companies in the UK, and yeah, there's a lot of hard infrastructural work that needs to be done. But nature-based solutions can help, and yeah, to get that balance right, it really depends on the the location where you're at. For example, we've done a study with work with Northumbrian Water, looking at exactly what with more sort of water quality issues with a phosphorus program. And there we looked at what can nature-based solutions do, how much can they realistically take on. But we ended up with really the best value options being hybrid solutions with some improvements at wastewater treatment works, and some like really catchment solutions, some wetlands, and finding that balance and getting these benefits. But yeah, sometimes it's hard to just rely on the natural solutions, and I guess that's similar to flood risk, where sometimes you just need to be sure that under all circumstances certain aspects are really protected by hard infrastructure. But if you work upstream and make sure that your whole catchment is covered with nature-based solutions, or if you bring that sort of back to a more natural state, it will help you immense. So yeah.
Thank you. We've got a couple of questions now with people really looking for some resources or support with thinking where's the best place to get resources. So Ed O'Brien asked the question, where do you recommend going for technical standards on nature-based solutions? Kira for SUDS, what about other solutions?
I can give a bit of advice on NFM and SUDS. So Marika's colleagues did an excellent job on a Syria manual for natural flood management. That's been around for a couple of years now, and that has a number of nice levels to it. It starts very conceptually, and then if you're interested in technical details, then there's also some guidance on that. And Syria have also done a SUDS manual, which has been around for a lot longer. Syria is CIRIA.
Tom, I don't know how long we've got left, but I wonder if this is a good moment to come back to you to talk about the next steps and how you want to evolve this topic, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I just wanted to kind of, I guess, round up a little bit and kind of pose a bit of maybe a plan going forward. But just wanted to express thanks for panelists for presenting, and also for those that got in touch for questions and those that were read out. I just wanted to say, if there's any other burning questions and anything that's come from this discussions that you would like to ask, please feel free to contact either Sally or myself, and we will do as best as we can to answer or share with panelists that are with us today, and we'll help with anything. So a little bit, I spoke kind of this webinar is part one of the further development. And one of the things that we've been sharing about within the climate emergency program or group, excuse me, is looking to put together a bit of a working group. We understand that we have a paper and we want to make the kind of evidence or any sort of guidance of how to begin looking at nature-based solutions, and lots of things about tying in stakeholders, how to put numbers to what you are doing, then tied into anything that is in, the kind of traditional asset management strategy and plan. So we want to set up a working group, which we're thinking of and kind of working on within the group, which will include more parties and kind of different parties from different levels of organisations, as well as we spoke a list about, for example, the river trusts that came up in Marcus's examples. People that have different views and points that can ultimately help together, because different groups, different ideas, different perspectives does help with the right kind of plan and strategy going forward. So that's a little bit about kind of what we would like to do within the climate emergency group. And yeah, if there's any other questions, like I said, about the content, but as well within the climate emergency group, we continue to look at new ideas, new developments. We've got various channels of work streams and things going on at the moment, and lots of exciting stuff to come. So if anyone has any questions about the climate emergency group, it is on the Institute of Asset Management website as well. And likewise, I'm more than happy to help share and connect you to good people. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me.
So I wanted to take the opportunity to thank all of our panelists and for all the work you've done, to both for the webinar, but also for the work we're doing in the climate emergency group on the nature-based solutions. It's really appreciated. There are a number of questions we didn't get to, so it would be good to make sure that we capture those and have a look at those. Some really interesting questions that we just didn't quite have time to do. I did put in the chat a link to the paper, so people could pick the paper up. I also put in the chat a link to the discussion forum item that Sally posted on the nature-based solutions, to share examples, etc. So do take the opportunity to do that as well. And as Tom and Sally and our panelists have said, then we're very willing to sort of continue the discussions. There's an interesting point that was made in the questions about, can we get some solutions which aren't water related, which I think is a cracking thing to have to sort of ask, and I think it'd be a good challenge to think about as well. So with that, I wanted to say massive thank you to everyone, all the panelists, and as I said, all the attendees. And this recording will be available. We'll make sure it's available towards the end of the week, hopefully. So look out for that. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.